Hi, my name is Matan Moore of Del Norte High School, and if I could vote for anybody right now, it'd be President Donald Trump.
My name is Madeline Austin. I go to Mira Vista College in Oceanside, and if I were to vote for someone today, it would, I guess I'm undecided. I guess is the answer. I'm an undecided voter.
My name is Philip Vladimir. I attend Miramar Community College, and I would vote for Bernie Sanders.
Hello, my name is Harao Pablo Cook. I am 17 years old, and if the election was today, I would still be undecided.
Still, you were warned.
I would be undecided at this present moment. I'm kind of warned, but at the same time, if it really was today, I honestly would not know.
I'm Jack Roper. I go to Palomar College, but I also homeschool at the same time. And today I would probably vote still for President Trump.
My name is Zero Shada. I go to Morse High School, and if I could vote for anyone today, I would vote for Andrew Yang.
My name is India Griffin. I go to San Diego Met High School, and if I could vote for anyone today, because Julian Castro dropped out of the race and endorsed Warren, I would vote for Warren.
Hi, Mithil Pujar. I go to Del Norte High School, and if I could vote for one person today, I think I'm going to try and stay as moderate as possible because I like to hear both sides of a particular issue. So right now I'm thanking Michael Bloomberg for his ability to listen to both sides and understanding what's actually happening, playing both worlds off, and that's why I enjoy hearing his perspective.
American decline, and we have rejected the downsizing of Americans' destiny. We have totally rejected the downsizing.
That could have been me up there.
Pelosi's just looking through like, how long is this going to be?
The military is completely rebuilt, with its power being unmatched anywhere in the world, and it's not even close. Our borders are secure. Our families are flourishing.
Didn't the wind just knock down
Our
part of the wall?
values are
That sounded
renewed.
like this.
Our pride is restored. Our great country, and to the members of Congress, the state of our union is stronger than ever.
Could you really have said that during 2002 State of the Union? During the 2002 State of the Union,
This system demonstrates how we are building the world's most prosperous and inclusive society, one where every citizen can join in America's unparalleled success, and where every community can take part in America's extraordinary rise. From the instant I took office, I moved rapidly to revive the U.S. economy, slashing a record number of job-killing regulations, enacting historic and record-setting tax cuts, and fighting for fair and reciprocal trade agreements. Our agenda
Why do
is
people say these things about Obama's family?
Well, they didn't look like robots.
pro-growth.
I think the slur used was transvestite.
Yeah.
It's like
just
that,
like
half the word
rejected
stands up and
during
the other half just
previous
stays sitting.
administration.
Pretty funny to watch.
You know what?
The Democratic and personal.
That and also, if anyone wants to stand,
If we hadn't reversed the failed economic policies of the previous administration, the world would not now be witnessing this great economic success. The unemployment rate for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Asian Americans has reached the lowest levels in history.
Right, okay.
African American youth unemployment has reached an all-time low.
wait, what was that? Can you?
All-time.
Yeah,
Unemployment rate for women reached the lowest level in almost 70 years.
Employment.
No, but again,
Is low.
there's like one of the statistical things that he can
it's like proven, so like he wants to just.
Yeah. I mean, all the things you're
Like, it's true, but you know, it's like, so he just kind of
I'm not saying it's not
like that's what I would do
Yeah,
too.
The
But
lowest
it is annoying.
unemployment rate recorded in U.S. history.
Did I not just say that once?
Thank gosh, he at least got
What
a little
one word did
spicy
you say
there.
before?
Yeah, he got a little.
Have been lifted off of welfare. In
It
8
gets
years
partisan,
under the
yeah,
last
but, like,
administration, over 300,000 working age
low
people
unemployment rates
dropped
aren't
out of the
partisan.
workforce. In just 3 years of my administration, 3.5 million people, working age people, have Since my election, the net worth of the bottom half of wage earners has increased by 47%, 3 times faster than the increase for the top 1%. After
I want to be the lowest producer. I'd rather be the biggest producer of green technology.
Alternative energy.
Remember when they were gonna build that Keystone Pipeline and they're like, nah, nothing's gonna happen. She'll stop protesting, and then they had like a
with thousands upon thousands of plants and factories being planned or being built. Coming back to the USA. The fact is that everybody wants to be where the action is, and the United States of America is indeed the place where the action is. In fact, unfair trade is perhaps the single biggest reason that I decided to run for president. Following NAFTA's adoption, our nation lost 1 in 4 manufacturing jobs. Many politicians came and went pledging to change or replace NAFTA, only to do so, and then absolutely nothing happened. But unlike so many who came before me, I keep my promises. We did our job.
She just nodded no.
Remember when you said that Mexico was gonna pay for the wall?
Yeah.
Canada to a much higher level, but also to be a much greater degree of fairness and reciprocity. We will have that fairness and reciprocity, and I say that finally because it's been many, many years that we were treated fairly on trade.
Look at all these white people.
He might not even speak English. Actually, I've heard him speak English. Please.
You guys all think it's pretty cool?
Yeah.
That's weird.
I'm pretty sure if you are a diplomat in a country, you kind of have to know English through the national business language.
That all Americans are united with the Venezuela. We are also getting
But if you look at
our
it,
allies finally to help pay
Pieces of her tongue.
their fair share.
By some
Either that or she has to connect.
It's called the Space
no.
Force.
Did you hear the way he said that?
I can't. The space.
Did you see how close the like symbol for it is to Star Trek?
Every
It'd be
other,
the same thing as
Have you
like
not seen the
NASA.
logo?
And what he wants so badly.
but every single branch of the military
He's
has a program already.
He's an 8th grader from Arizona in Eastern
Space Force. Stop.
He has always dreamed of going to space. He was the first in Mission Academy. He aspires to go to the Air Force Academy, and then he has his eye on the Space Force. As Ian said,
He was like, he went to some aviation academy and was top of his class.
Isn't it like the same thing as like NASA, but like government?
And more focus on
It's about,
like
like, defense, yeah.
Yeah. So like weaponizing the ISS instead of just having it.
Lincoln.
From the founders to Lincoln to MLK.
the people are the heart of our country. Their dreams are the soul of our country, and their love is what powers and sustains our country. We must always remember that our job is to put America.
Private schools
Because I'm
or
pleased to inform
Well, the
you
actual
that
implementation of it, but I mean the argument for or against it is fairly simple.
yeah, but I'm saying the concept itself is very complicated when you do.
Somewhat, but
Jesus.
Institutional
Well,
design.
no, but weren't there a bunch of protests in New York City from like New York City? Because didn't they have a big protest about the school choice? Or like the schools were discriminatory
The opportunity
against?
scholarship is available for her, and she's gonna head to the school for choice.
So basically, like they're building up charter schools.
No, so like you know how like I don't know how it
Yeah.
works in your guys' school districts, but like let's say like in our districts, you're like
there are no
4
charter schools, so that's not a good comparison.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like how it affects a public school is like we're forced to go to the school like that's in our area, not relating to any private
So
school.
what is the
or-
point? So they're gonna not develop schools in areas that are marginalized,
Yeah.
so people can go
like
to like
communities.
wider areas to go to schools that are good, instead of actually developing every school in every neighborhood.
The issue
Does that
is
make
that you're,
sense?
well, that's the argument against it, but it's a bit of a straw man because what happens is people aren't allowed to tie into their particular school. So that means you can travel to a better school. So it
Why
allows
would you need
market
to travel
forces.
to a
But, like,
better school? Why
Because
would
it
you
allows
make-
market forces. Because
Yeah.
there is no check
Exactly.
on public schools. So this public school is failing, and you know it's failing. There's a better school 2 miles away, but you can't go there.
Okay, but why wouldn't we develop the failing?
It creates
school?
competition.
Because-
School
Why
choice.
would you want competition? Everyone
Competition,
deserves.
competition doesn't help schools because then schools just get greedy. They just want to raise test scores.
Everyone
Yeah.
deserves a
well,
good
the problem is they're
education. Why would
competing on the wrong thing. So when you're
It's
looking
like
at that,
crabs in a bucket. It's like, oh, this one kid gets to go to this good school and maybe they'll do something. But in these neighborhoods,
Well,
which are
the idea is
which are
everybody should be
systemically
able to go to a
disadvantaged.
better school. Well, yes, and that's why school choice is good. Because it helps
Why is
people
it
that
good?
that are systemically disadvantaged
But it
to
only
try and
helps
get
a
better
few.
schools. No, it helps quite a majority of them when it's implemented right. The problem is ESSAs are very, very
why wouldn't
small
you
scale.
help the school instead of sending
Because
them to
sometimes
another
the schools
one?
can't be fixed.
Why
and
couldn't they be fixed?
people. So
It's
when
not
you
because
go,
of the students.
It's not because of the students.
misallocation of resources.
It's not dedication.
There's
of
no
resources.
bad
So-
schools. The
there's
school is
a
a
thing.
building.
There's
If
a
you don't
difference.
develop
So
it well, it's
say,
not gonna
let's
be
talk
good.
about a Met school, for instance, right?
Right, okay.
So you can have most Met schools are actually charters, so they're independent from the other school districts. So the idea is that instead of going to a public school where you're say forced to go to one school, you can instead go to a Met.
Okay.
That's all school choices.
But that's not the same. It's not the same concept. Like the school, the Met school, basically they're trying to implement the same things that we have the Met at other schools across the district. But it is in some ways problematic that like okay, our room sizes are like what like 20 students to like one teacher, which that's amazing. And in most schools in the district they don't have that.
Yeah.
But like, why wouldn't you try to implement resources and
try, but
reallocate
then-
resources so every school is good and we don't have to send a few select. She was on a waiting list to get to a good school. That doesn't make any sense.
That's the dream, is to have every school like that. The
Exactly.
problem is right now, it's not like that. And
Okay,
it's an
so
interim
Because
we-
solution.
there's human error
Work to
Yeah,
fix
it's an interim
funding
solution.
is
So
difficult.
it's the issue of public schools. So you're dealing with a massive bureaucracy, and what's happening is change is hard. And ideally, every single school will be like a Met school. Ideally, it would all be learner-centered, and we have schools that are actually obeying market philosophies and going forward to create people that are best able to graduate and contribute to our economy. Right now, school doesn't do that. The problem is you can't fix that, and people have been trying. I mean, Elliot and Peter and all those people that you would know from Met specifically, and they've been trying to change schools nationally. They've been doing it Peter's been doing it for 30 years. Elliot's been doing the same exact thing. So you're looking at those people and they're trying to do it, but it's so huge. It will be close to impossible to do immediately, and that's why school choice is filling the void right now, where it's creating a need for it. Because right now the public schools could just stay failing. And by the current system, there's no way to change that other than fixing the specific policies surrounding that, which is something that's simply not going to happen because it cuts their own funding. So it's jumping down the rabbit hole in terms of what's a holdover from NCLB.
But I understand like India how, you know, like let's say there's a school that's 2 blocks away that you wanna go to.
Exactly.
Because your school that you're going to is failing and you
And
wanna go to the
bad,
other
has
one.
poor
And
facilities.
India's gonna say, well, what happens to the failing school? Like why
Exactly,
should
it's
these
kicking the
kids
can down the road.
be left at this failing school, but
So-
some of their families are given the opportunity to go to a better school.
So the idea is that the failing school will then have an impetus to actually change. Because right now, if the failing school has nobody leaving, and everybody's just gonna be forced to go to that public school, and they're guaranteed that money by you going there, they're gonna have absolutely no reason to change.
It's
Because
So
just
you
like
think
if we
by
could.
people leaving the school to
They have-
say, this school sucks, well, this is a failing school, I don't wanna go here, they won't have the attendance,
My-
they
But
won't
let's
have the.
my
think
only
about
issue
like
with that would
smart
be-
management and how
why can't they
funding
do that
for
at
schools
different
are allocated.
Another
If
analogy
this
we
school
could
is in a
use.
wider neighborhood and it has more houses
It's
that
not
have
on race
high,
lines. but-
okay, it often is. I don't think that that is a
I'm
reasonable thing to say that the better schools within
No.
our district don't have higher rates of white students. That's just true.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just true.
I mean-
And when you look at it on like in terms of redlining, the schools that are near these good schools are like the houses that are near these good schools have high property
Nicer.
tax. So the money goes into these specific schools, and then as you defund the other schools because people are leaving because they want to go to the good school, then they have less funding than they already didn't have good funding because the houses near those schools are houses that are not owned but they're rented by brown and black folks. And so they don't get the money that they need to make good schools, and these people are getting the money that could have gone to these other schools, and these schools could have been developed, but you don't care enough about everyone. You only care about the few students that can go to these good schools and get out of the budget.
But it's almost impossible to turn that around because the reason that those property taxes are so high in those areas is because there's a good school. So there's not really a way to fix
It's,
that.
but like the competition argument does, like the reason why in the part of Missouri that I grew up in before I went to the Southwest is like the Boot Hill of Missouri. Like we had a form of that implemented before you called it like whatever the fancy name is now or whatever. Where basically wherever, when a school wasn't meeting like the needed test scores to like be, you know, a good school or be deemed like something that was legitimate, they would move students to different schools.
Oh, that's
and,
not it. That's completely different.
And
That's
like
a different program entirely from Essex and what school choice is centered around.
It's,
So
it
that was the
sounds-
failed attempt at school choice.
Okay,
Yeah.
along the same lines of it, and
Not
like
really,
a
but
close
okay.
cousin, where and
Not quite close.
okay,
Okay.
then I can look for another example in Pennsylvania, but like the relative idea of it with the competition, while it was gone on like a different idea than the school choice, was to do the competition part of it. Like when you remove kids and they see this like, oh my gosh, kids are leaving the school, like we have to do something about it. The school got shut down. Like we had 2 schools in our neighboring areas that got like that just shut down, and then the kids moved to different schools by force in larger amounts, and then that
It
school
fell
then
2
like
days
hindered
ago.
because there wasn't enough like stimulus to keep
They're
it
just
up.
gonna talk about the violence if you listen.
The what?
Sounded like.
For the first time in nearly 30 years.
They were like doing like 2 or 3.
Those are 3.
Ohio is now struggling with mental health. And because Congress was so good as to fund my request, new cures for childhood cancer, and we will of this decade.
They've already found cures for some forms of cancer.
You can only help for 4 more years of that decade, though.
If we don't
Maybe
collapse
red
for
states
end of
should,
diseases.
maybe red states should start teaching sex education. He has stage 4 lung cancer.
It's that simple. So I don't get it. Is that
Oh, because he had,
you still pay $4,000 a year for public school? That's ridiculous, right?
And I'm taking a lot of my classes
Exactly. That's all that.
because the public school is helping.
The public school isn't helping you or anything.
They're giving him the Medal of Freedom.
He just found out, look at his face. He just, oh my god. That's so awesome.
they just gave.
What did he-
They just give Rush Limbaugh the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Because he got diagnosed with cancer.
No, he didn't know.
I presented at the State of the Union, that's pretty cool.
They're giving it to him right now.
I don't know if they're gonna like do the ceremony now.
So he's a
That's
deaf, he
definitely the first one.
has community college.
I will now
If you're deaf,
ask
you don't need that
the
thing
First
anymore.
Lady of the United States to present you
Oh, you're
with
kidding.
the honor, please.
I thought I saw him
If
holding
you're
it.
completely deaf, that's useless at that point.
And like this is just like a few of them next to Caucasian inside the
Oh my god.
implanted.
Is this the first time that?
Has it first lady done this?
Wow.
Well, she messes up. Oh no.
Drops it.
Right then and there.
Melania, get it on.
What is she stitching it on there? Oh no, there's like different like 12 buttons. Yeah, there's like 12 and no. Russian ball metal.
I was like, what the heck? I was like, I don't know.
So they gave him to get birth control?
He's also like a very prominent conservative
Yeah.
talk show
Yeah, so like he's
and has made lots of talk show.
So that's right.
He just went like this.
So like, basically just
He revolutionized talk show politics in anime. Oh, and in a man or something.
I was like, wait.
Pray for all who are sick. We know that America is constantly
Has
achieving
he ever given
new
a medal
medical
for
breakthroughs. Ever to survive.
Give it a bunch of
Because the same people that are going to want to go into teaching are going to go into teaching. It's not going to convince anybody to go into teaching. The people that are going into teaching for money aren't the people
How
who
old
want
was
to
she?
teach for money. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but the thing is that it's not going to solve the problem.
We're glad
It's not an end-all be-all.
with us.
Doesn't solve the problem.
She's like, try not to cry.
She was born at 21 weeks.
21 weeks. Oh my god. That's so insane.
That's so young.
It goes up to
21 weeks.
Fathers all across our nation.
Russian.
Enabling
I
17
think that's a
states
speech.
to
Maybe it's like a different
The audience
eliminated their wait lists altogether. Congress a plan with a vision to further expand access to high-quality childcare and urge you to act immediately.
And leave repair support. That could have been done in repair support.
Yeah, but when you work with the private sector, it's done quickly.
They're like, oh, jeez.
Did it say arrow yes? Is that what they're going to say?
We must also citizens have access
I think
to
that
high-speed
It's going
internet,
well. Not just
including
because
and
we're
especially
mostly
routes. I
in
mean,
Supposed to inspire.
most of our people
It's turning
publish the same thing. We have mess up for our shipping routes that are
What was it? I don't know.
another
High-speed internet rule in America.
The state of California
Oh my
passed a
God.
gorgeous law declaring their whole state to be a sanctuary for criminals, illegal,
Oh, as I was talking about.
a very terrible sanctuary
Yes.
with catastrophic results. Look at her tragic example. In December 2018, California police detained an illegal alien with 5 prior arrests, including convictions for robbery and assault. But as required by California's sanctuary law,
She's like, I'm gonna jump.
days later, the criminal alien went on a gruesome spree of deadly violence. He viciously shot one man going about his daily work. He approached a woman sitting in her car and shot her in the arm and in the chest. He walked into a convenience store and wildly fired his weapon. He hijacked a truck and smashed into vehicles, critically
This is
injuring
just
innocent
fear-mongering at
victims.
this point.
One of the
Yeah.
victims
Like, he's just-
is
He's sharing what one criminal did and like talking about how terrible it is, and he's just stretching like that's a potential any illegal immigrant has.
Did you not see how many out of the 120,000
But they're still breaking the law.
charged with criminal?
Do you know how many
Wait, no,
more
they-
immigrants there are that aren't like that?
Yeah, like he didn't share how many were captured.
What, be careful though, you're saying immigrants in general. They are still illegally coming here.
Including his brothers.
People are not illegal.
More than
People
I
are
didn't say they were illegal.
Nobody
They
said
were-
that.
Like
They immigrated here illegally. That is a factual statement.
all of us in
yes
this
or no?
room are only here because we immigrate. Like I don't.
And
But
my
legally.
parents-
Why
I
is it
think-
illegal?
Not I.
But legally, that's the catch.
And I
Our
think
parents all came
he's
here
not
legally.
quite attacking, I'm just gonna say one thing, he's not quite attacking the illegal immigration as a whole here,
Yeah.
he's attacking the fact that the sanctuary laws allow violent criminals to
Yeah.
be released, and
don't think
because
that's
they
fair.
can't be sent to ICE and they can't be convicted because they're not citizens.
Exactly.
So it allows criminals who we know are unsafe illegal immigrants because they've committed a crime already beyond immigrating here
But he's
illegally.
not advocating for changing those policies. The way he's wording what he
Oh,
just
yeah, I
did
totally agree.
is like
It
feeding the
is
mind
fear
of
mongering. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
illegal
not
immigrants
fear-mongering.
are like all
Absolutely,
criminals.
yes.
Like
That's
and the
not
sanctuary
true.
cities
That's
only
not-
protect them. That's
Yeah.
exactly what he
I think
wanted.
before we can have a conversation about illegal immigration and whether it's required. So that's my problem with like this whole illegal immigration talk is that nobody is trying to make the path to citizenship itself easier.
Like we have an effective vetting system to determine like what their history in their country was, but instead of speaking about that and like how many were detained in general, like that wording was so toxic, and that's exactly what fear-mongering is. Like he didn't share about anything positive of what the sanctuary cities did in protection of citizens. Like it was just, here are the two criminals and here are the terrible things they did. That was completely arbitrary to go on that long rant about the terrible things that one criminal did, because now that's what they're going to remember. Oh my God, a woman was shot while she was sitting in her car, and an illegal alien did that? That's freaking fear-mongering. That's why we have such an issue.
Into our country, never to be seen again.
That's like that does. I'm not saying that like
I'm not-
Obama like was okay because
Yeah,
they did
yeah.
that. Like it was wrong either way. So that's not like.
If you come illegally, you will now be promptly removed from our country.
Well, if we're just talking about what people need, then we need to take care of our own citizens before.
What, our own citizens? I mean, like, that's like
How
some
can we
nationalistic
take care of the
crap.
entire
Like,
world?
We're
How
not,
can we take care of
okay,
the
we try to, do we not? Do we not get involved in every single thing and like
Yeah.
mobilize the
Exactly.
military to help people everywhere? Like, okay, pick a story. Because if you care about people, then you care about people. You don't just care about people that are citizens, whatever that means, that constructed idea of like if you belong to this one part of the land, then you are a citizen. And countries in general, like colonization is at the root of so
by
many.
a established idea, we have governments for order. So if we have people who are not following
So,
that
but
order,
listen.
then we don't have order anymore.
Are we in favor of people or are we in favor of our people or the people that look like us? He never said person.
What do you mean
He-
look like us?
Yeah, in America you can't really say.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are a melting pot. What do you mean
Okay.
we look like
Oh, a
us?
melting pot. Please. Oh my God. Are you serious?
Yes.
That language, do you know where that comes from? The melting pot. The
My
idea-
great grandmother is 100% Armenian. Yes, I actually do mean that.
Okay, the idea of the melting pot actually came from white immigrants from Europe and being Western immigrants or Eastern immigrants and kind of melting this idea of what whiteness meant. It had nothing to do with people of other races.
What?
That's what the origins of the melting pot came from.
I don't know. Because I
That's what
remember
the
it.
origin of the melting pot
I remember
is.
it from.
It has nothing to do with
I don't know, but I remember because I just remember from like Ford's whole. He had this whole thing where like he had immigrant workers and stuff. They were somewhat colored, and then, again, there's different mind. But like I remember his like definition of it was literally just all. He was totally racist in that regard and stuff, but his that was really nice. Where did that one come from?
the melting pot, like the
Like
idea
the
of the melting
act-
pot
like,
was
yeah.
like basically in creating whiteness,
Like,
which obviously
no,
is construct. What do you mean no?
No, like
No,
melting, like the term melting pot was like, of course it's used now because
Yeah, 'cause I was
everyone
saying
talking
now,
about
I was
melting.
like-
but when
like-
it
Talking
started,
about
it wasn't
origins
like
here.
they weren't saying
Exactly.
look at the African American representation we have in the United States because they were property.
Yeah.
That's not what it was. It was
Exactly.
look at the Irish and the Germans and
Right.
But it
the-
wasn't
the
to
British that we
create
have.
whiteness. It was to.
Whiteness is created. You understand that, right?
But why are we
Yes,
even
but that
talking
wasn't
Yeah,
the
why is
purpose
this
of it.
relevant?
Because it goes back to like
Why is it
the,
not
the,
relevant? Like,
the,
why
the
is this
fear
not
mongering of the
everything is
immigration,
about
like
race?
arguably
Yeah.
In a
what
No,
is
it's
like
not.
in
the
racialized
what is, like,
America,
the-
yes, many
not.
things
No,
are
I
about
mean,
race.
relevant
Race is
as
an
in,
indicator
like-
of the way that you
I
live.
know it's disgusting.
In most cases.
No, yeah. Yeah, I say we can get back to it. Is there ever gonna be a break? I don't think so. But
Yeah, it's not like they have an intermission.
It's whenever you make it that public, that's when it's my
no
issue.
Yeah.
But it like overturned the decision of basically like
If you have
kind of like
to
how
go
we're
to
making
Australia,
now
you
and the
have
news
no
can
proof that
other
Australia
this
exists.
entire news station can do whatever they want. In other rooms, it was more before Trump, that's what it would be. But now he's expanded it to where it's more justifiable to make it like a public thing instead of just like a private thing, if that makes sense.
Although you
Not-
can't see the
not the
workers around.
intention
Like
of
if
what
you're
you guys
if you're the highest
Yeah, but
place,
that's
you
what's
can see a
happening.
slight curvature.
He didn't say, the legislation doesn't say make it public, make the school, but that's what the
When
people who are like,
shit
you know, on the
goes
Trump train
away
doing with
from
that wording
shore,
with legislation.
oh, okay.
groundbreaking plan for
That
peace
doesn't happen when it's half.
Does it round?
in Syria. Today, the ISIS territorial caliphate has been 100% destroyed, and the founder and leader of ISIS, the bloodthirsty killer known as al-Baghdadi, is dead.
Is that exchange that you just had?
You're saying with what those are, it's crazy.
Which is probably the lowest point of the entire time this winter. Losing American lives. Like, it's non-combatant targets. And the people that general in a foreign country, like, murdered or had, like, terrorist acts against they weren't non-combatant. They were combatant. Like, they were troops. So you can't label them as a terrorist, which is the only, like, under the AUMF, the authorized use of military force, he's allowed to make quick and decisive action against terrorism, but not in acts of war like that. So he used this umbrella term of terrorism, but broke, it's like chapter 32 of whatever the code conduct of terrorism that we define it internationally as. And he broke that rule because it wasn't non-combatant targets that died. They were combatant, it was an act of war, which is why it was an unjust, like, he didn't have the qualifications to do so. Like, there was no need, he wasn't a terrorist.
Even
Because
if that's true, he still can apply force for 30 days.
But like with troops moving, that would, like, murder is not included in that. He didn't move troops. He, like, the AUMF
According
doesn't
to
cover
the
it.
dictionary, terrorism is the unlawful use of violence and intimidation.
Are you using like
especially
Webster or
against-
using like what the United States?
No, it's not about what the real definition of the word is. It's how
FBI.gov.
the-
I'll pick that up.
If that's how the FBI defines it.
It's
That wasn't
like
FBI,
United
look at
States
FBI.
policy.
Yeah.
That's what they define terrorism as.
The AUMF definition.
Terrorism.
Do what?
The AUMF's definition.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay,
Under
according to the
Yeah.
FBI, international terrorism is violent criminal acts committed by individuals and or groups who are inspired by, associated with, or designated foreign terrorist organizations or nations.
Or not fight at all.
Okay, well that
Yeah, that is-
that is so self-serving.
like and
associated with
the
terrorism.
reason why like the whole
Are we talking morally unjust or legally unjust?
Oh, yeah.
there's- I feel like
unlawful
there's-
in
That's a
regards
good
of, like
one.
in the name of terrorism. Like it was
Yeah,
unlawful.
it's unlawful.
But you said unjustified.
I think you said it was
You said
unjust.
unjustified.
That's
Okay.
the first
Unjust
the moral
legally.
part.
Okay,
Is
you
why
moral,
it's
I
like
think we were
morally-
concerned morally.
Yeah,
like, why would
it's
you
morally
say
that
that's
was one of the
unjustified?
most just.
The
It just
issue
looked
with the
like
United States and
violent
the Middle
criminal
East, like
acts,
specifically
so they would
Iraq and
fall
Saudi
under
Arabia,
completely.
literally started in the 1930s. Whenever Saudi Arabia became a country, Iraq was right behind them. 1953, Iraq held like an election. They said, you know what? We're going to elect a leader who was literally like democratically elected them. The United States did not agree with their anti-Western policy, so they literally held a coup to overthrow the Iraq government. And that's when the United States was like, boom, we're here. We don't like your leader. We're overthrowing it. 1978, the people did not like the whole like Western idea. They wanted their like traditional like more, I forget what branch of like the Muslim religion. They're like, we want this represented in our government. So they overthrew what we put in place. I think it might be Sunni. And so they reclaimed Iraq in 1978, and they were like, this is us. We don't want like the United States involvement anymore. And ever since 1978, when they did that, the United States was like, you know, we were kind of controlling this. We don't really appreciate that you did that. So then they started actively going against Iraq, where they were fighting Iran and defending Iraq when Iran was trying to invade. As soon as they overthrew, like, we kind of want to do like our own elected leader in Iraq, they switched up and said, actually, we don't care about Iraq citizens anymore. And they joined Iran and started invading Iraq. Like, all of these military operations that unfortunately kill American soldiers derive from this, like, really messy action.
He is here with us tonight.
You're kidding.
Wow.
Their military family, he was deployed, or still deployed, and then he brought him in.
Wow.
Of course I talked during that. The one thing Jesus.
An election, like it's much more
Yeah.
like.
All of them are kind of like
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
Obama's just some intense marketing as
It
well.
was,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
watching the Obama highlights. I'm like, this man really,
He's the one person
he
that
sold
said the
this
State of
shit.
the
Like,
Union
good job.
Do you know who said the State of our Union is not strong? Which president?
One of the Bushes? That's all I can do.
I'll search it up.
Well, if it was recent, it would. There was only one
Bro,
option.
I don't know.
Say one of the presidents.
American
obliterate people that live in a
Create
place
the greatest
already.
country that's ever been.
This is the greatest
To
country that's
erase
ever been. Oh, okay.
cultures, lives.
Like
What?
literally.
There isn't a country
They were
who
at
hasn't
war.
I didn't.
colonized.
Who?
That's,
I mean, I
no,
didn't
we're
say
not
that
like
that
just
wasn't the
picking
case.
on the
Any
U.S.
country.
We're not
No,
picking
so
colonization as a
again,
whole.
the issue is that-
That's
Part of
why
the
Yeah,
general
so again,
is
all
not
right.
good thing.
He's like
So,
trying
again,
to
like for both sides. So like again, the issue is now we look at it and morally it was unjustified by I guess normal now traditional or
Status
modern
quo.
ethic standards. It was it's unjustified. And then what the I guess conservatives trying to say is just that at the time, yes, it was a thing, and that was just kind of one of the many. That's kind of where we're differing here, I guess, because yes, it was a part of history, and history that's just what countries did. But if you look at it from today's standards, objectively, that was pretty fucked up. You know, to do that, like you shouldn't have. I can't say it, but you should. Yeah, you shouldn't have. You know. Killed millions of people, or that's just like objectively that you know it's not a good thing, and then even in service of
Just because everyone does something doesn't make it good.
Yeah, but they fought back,
That's
they
not-
tried to settle, and that's what happened. That's how
That's not what
settlement works.
That's not my
People,
point
like
either.
nations fight, like people, civilizations
that's not
fight,
his
and
point.
that's
He's
how
saying
like
that there's
that's
the
how
problem
the
is
world
there
is.
isn't an alternative. So what we're attacking is something that doesn't.
He's about to end.
And
So we're attacking something that just doesn't exist anymore. We're
and
attacking
if we're gonna
history, and there's no
apply
point
a
in
moral
attacking
standard to one person, we have to apply it to all
Let's
people
not act
as
like
well.
colonization does not
So
continue
let's
to
assume
affect
colonization
the
is bad. I think
How
we're
could
all
we
on the
con-
same page
military-
there. That colonization should not occur from this point on. What happened in history happened in history, and history is history, and it's not happening now. So
But
we
let's
can move
not
on now.
say that the military strategy of the United States is not constantly informed by colonization. Let's not say
colonizing
that. Let's
countries?
not say.
What?
Are you fucking kidding me?
just because I said it once.
Can we remove the essence from this? There is a camera.
I know. Yeah.
Okay.
This will be the.
It is like cussing makes you a bad person.
No, just no.
Great. And do we have to argue about every word said?
No.
But this is how we have all
Let's not have like respect for
ideas.
And my fellow Americans, the best is yet to come.
My point was saying that is we
it
have
over?
if we're gonna apply a moral standard, and no one is.
I'm saying
I'm
that's
saying
not
it
applying the
wasn't
moral
as-
Yeah, it was
standard
bad. Yeah.
broadly.
That was the
Colonization
most-
is not a good thing.
35
Like
minutes.
Trump
It's not a good
saying,
thing
I agree
for
on
the-
that
for
perspective.
America.
Yeah, it's Brad. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
I misunderstood
not
what
too
you're
much.
All right.
Yeah.
So I want to get your guys' candid reactions.
Oh,
we're
letting
starting?
us go?
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought it was.
Well, I mean, but like Philip, you had said,
It was the like speech that he's
Yeah.
had. Like
It
I'll
was
admit,
prepared.
like it was, yeah, it
Yeah.
was it was
Well, and
it was
that's-
pretty
I mean,
pretty
also-
well prepared in regards of
And
like not
measured.
just completely shitting on
No,
everything.
well, that's the thing, and then like there's a difference between prepared and scripted
more
Trump, and
recurs
then
the less
unscripted
people
Trump,
make
and then in a lot of his rallies he just
Yeah.
goes
Yeah,
off
exactly,
the and then in the last State of the Union it was the same thing. I thought was really well done
I don't know if
because
that's
it was the same
yeah.
formatted. He didn't. He obviously practiced on this, and here we see the same thing. So, and I think that's how it should be. The president should practice for the State of the Union. It's-
But the
But
truth,
also-
like
but
your
by
truth
saying that
sentiment
though, I
is
mean,
what you say
President
without
Trump
practicing.
is a very unscripted.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
That's why.
true.
That's why the
So
people
is it
elected
unique?
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why the
Say,
people elected him.
you were
That's why the
part of
voters
that.
vote for him because he has that personality. That's like different than the president should be this, the president should be that. No, he like redefined that, and that's why his supporters like him. He has like over 97% now support in the Republican Party, and the State of the Union was just another great show of how like he used that support and how he pushed his agenda and to show how he can truly.
But
keep
the
America
issue with like
great.
saying like he did do this is just because he said it doesn't mean it's necessarily true. Like he promised his voters like 4% growth, tax cuts to a lot of people in, especially I almost said the Middle East, in the Midwest, like or like in rural areas of the Midwest, and he talked about like the saving deficit and lowering that, all of these things. Those weren't done. He's just simply stating facts of like we're at the lowest unemployment
Yes,
rates,
so
like
you-
things like this.
Which you
But
do.
if you
Well,
follow the
producers.
trends, like even if this was, and when I say the part of like he's exaggerating what he's done for the economy, I would say it if this was Hillary Clinton giving
Yeah, no, it's
these
true.
exact facts. Like what presidents do in the State of the Union is a lot of the economic like prosperity that we're seeing and what we
Has
see in
very
other
little
State of
to
the
do with
Unions
the
has nothing to, little or
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
to do
yeah,
with
no,
the president.
it's true.
Like,
That
But then
is-
the thing is, that's what's going to determine he's going to get elected. Who said that? It's the economy, stupid. Was that Reagan?
I believe so.
It's the economy.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
basically,
I'll
right?
search it again.
Like, it's.
I mean, it's true, but the president or the administration
Yeah.
has very little to do with what's happening.
And then
in the
they always
economy.
get blamed
It's
for
the
what's
people.
bad, and then,
They get blamed for what's bad, and they get a little bit of credit for what's good.
It's
But-
decisions like for example, like one thing Obama could literally say, like, I did this for the economy was when he bailed out the auto industry in, what was it, like 2003, 2013, something like that.
Yeah, something like
I don't like he
Oh,
he bailed out the auto industry and was like,
Carville, who was a
we're gonna help you out.
strategist.
That was him directly. Like he did something
Yeah.
that was beneficial for it and could say like,
He had
this is what we did.
inherited it from, I mean, in most economies, you inherit it from.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Like it's he has spent like hundreds of billions of dollars from the treasury to add little bits of stimulants into it and like say like here's a little bit of a boost, you know, here's a little bit more, like this is a little bit of something, but overall like it's trends that were started in the Obama administration or the Bush administration, and if you followed along, if it would have stayed at the same rate of when they were president, it's just the same. And it's not
Exactly.
it's just you have to take it with like a grain of salt because like
Oh, definitely,
it's not
Right.
like
Definitely.
yeah, Trump did this. Like Trump is the reason for
and
it.
a lot of people, I don't think anyone's no Democrat, I don't think is denying that. Obviously, the economy's doing great right now.
Yeah.
It's part, and at least in part because of Trump. But yes, there are certain
Yeah.
standards
I mean,
that
market
were set in
sentiment
by.
is one thing
Uh-huh.
to keep in mind. Is that
Yeah.
people are happy. I mean, they're not, and if people are happy, there's going to be no reason for them to want change to happen.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the one thing I didn't like that he didn't address though was the inequality that we like that's like growing. Because he's talking about how like you know we have the lowest minority unemployment, the lowest minority poverty, and things like that. And while it's getting to the lowest, the inequality of the 1% and those stuck in poverty is only growing more.
Well,
Like,
so no, but he
it's-
mentioned that. He said the medium income for the lowest 10%.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
He said
Oh,
it's
I
47%. So yeah, he said median income for low 10% is 40%, 47% growth, which is 3 times faster than the top 1%. And I get that. That's kind of well, it's like how much money can you make when you're already on top? But I feel like you know, if anything, that's I think that's a good standard. And then it's not necessarily. That's showing that the disparity is somewhat decreasing, which Republicans might not say that that's. Oh God. Which Republicans might not say is necessarily good or anything,
But my
yeah.
thing,
Do you
one
think
thing,
though, is there anything that he said tonight that you think could sway your undecisive voters?
like between like
I mean, Phil,
Space
did it
Force.
take a lot, I
Just
mean,
kidding.
as someone for you've supported, but to hear Trump tonight, did it kind of take a lot to even admit it wasn't that bad of a speech?
yeah
Did it
like
kind of kill you to say that?
just a little bit, only because like he was saying like you were saying, there's a difference between scripted and unscripted Trump. Like I'm just saying like in a setting like this, it is like shocking to see like how put together he can be.
Yeah.
And that
Do you
it's
think
just
so that can resonate with some undecided voters?
oh most definitely
But the-
because especially with like his hype previously of like everyone's against me, everyone's attacking me, and so he hasn't really spoken out a whole lot and been in like big media scandals other than like saying like Kansas
Congress
and
had
for the Chiefs or whatever. Like him staying out of like media attention in a negative light in like a super big way like he did when he was first becoming president, and then now he's like got this really professional like moving, I brought a soldier home, I gave a medal of freedom. Like they're like, why is the media against this man? Like look at this. Like I think it was definitely
But
a smart
I
move.
personally yeah, it's a smart move, but I don't think that's going to sway any voters because let's say there is some undecided voter and somehow they don't know about Trump's usual his characteristics and
Yeah.
being unscripted and stuff, and then they watch this and they go, oh well, they've just been hearing the stigma around him, and they understand that or they see that this is. They think that this is the real him, blah blah, and they're just attacking that. Then when they see him later, they're gonna still see the unscripted
Yeah.
Trump. So if they didn't like him in the last 2 or 3 years, 3 years, then he's they're not gonna like him now. So I don't think it's gonna change any. I think it's just promoting the base and such, and then if anything, for some of the bipartisan.
Oh my
parts, then,
goodness,
yeah.
she tore it up afterwards.
What did she
Oh,
tear
she's
up?
tearing it.
Wait, what was that?
What's she tearing up?
She's, I think,
Oh,
tearing
she
up.
tore up the speech.
Is that the speech?
God.
Hold on, wait.
I'm
That's
sure
it.
that she was reading along.
She's like,
That makes me want to not like her more.
The respect of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't-
I understand how.
She
I don't have to
just
say
Literally
that.
got a
disrespected.
piece of paper and we're all like, oh my god, wow, she's so disrespectful.
Well, you know what's funny is someone was talking about today about how different like people react like to like things that happen like the Iowa caucus, for example, like in the Democratic Party, like everyone's like, oh my god, like this is like the worst thing ever happened. How could the Democrats let this happen? Da 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 da. But then like there's all of these things that like Trump has said, like you said and done, and it's just so funny like how everyone can like criticize one party and their actions over like, you know what I mean? Like
It's
a
like it's
different.
consistent.
it's like
It's
you
always
become
the
too
opposition
normalized.
party.
No, it's
and
so
they're
it's
criticizing
both
for the
ways,
same thing. Like
Yeah.
everything that they're criticizing Trump for, like Bill Clinton, they're using the same exact arguments when
Yeah.
yeah. that impeachment. It's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
interesting to watch how they
Yeah.
they flip
Yeah,
almost
it's
entirely
it's
on the
always-
same
yeah.
exact position.
Yeah.
And that's
Do we
something.
want to watch
it's
some of
all
the
this party
Democratic
line.
response?
Nope,
No,
nope,
not really.
Really?
I know, well, we can, like, just for our timing purposes of it, is,
It would, but I don't think the person that wrote his speech would have let that happen in like a million years.
that Trump does what he wants to do.
It's
Well, I
surprising
think
that he
he-
didn't make a shady comment about it. Like at
Yeah,
least like
that's
one
true.
like just drop of
You know,
it.
maybe
like,
we did and we were all distracted.
Oh.
I haven't seen it on Twitter, not that it's
Oh,
saying it
okay,
didn't
yeah.
happen, but, I mean, that was the big thing, everyone had said, no, it's not in speech, no, it's not in speech, but you never know what Trump will do, because it kinda looks like he might have gone off script,
As
because
a whole, so we had no idea what the other person was saying, and that's at least how I took it, so that we were all attacking ideas that are premises that do not correspond with one another. So we were passionate about the fact that people should all be entitled to get a quality education. I think that's something that everybody can agree about, and that
Yeah.
education is critical to economic mobility wherever it is, so that way that whatever education you get should have the ability to prepare you for the future that you're gonna have.
but
That's
having
the-
equal access to
And having
education.
equal access to
I think
education, so everybody should have, everybody, and I mean everybody should have that ability to gain access to a quality education. It doesn't matter what neighborhood you go to, it doesn't matter any of those other categories that we're gonna assign ourselves to. It matters that every single student should have access to a quality
but
and
like
purposeful
I guess
education.
what-
And are we all in agreement
In
on
their
that?
neighborhood.
I guess what
No,
I'm
everywhere, every student, I mean every
I
student.
know every student
every
in their
single
own neighborhood. You
No.
should not have to leave your neighborhood to have a good education.
No, yes, but every student should have access to a good education,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
But like but what we
I'm
were
conf-
talking about with that specific like with the issue with the school swapping that you're talking about is it's one of those things where it's easy to say like everyone has access to it. And yes, that's true. Like when this legislation is put in place, they have access to better schooling. But the issues come back to if it's on the opposite side of town, how do you expect low-income families to
exactly.
find like transportation to the
And
school?
ideally,
Because
it
the
should
school
be
bus routes
accessible.
aren't going to
Exactly.
expand.
It
Like,
should be accessible to everyone, and that's the issue right now is that it's not accessible to
I
everyone.
but that's why
my-
New York
my-
was protesting it, like, or
Because it isn't accessible to everyone, and that's
Yeah.
the problem with what it's currently
Right.
being
If it was in your neighborhood,
implemented.
it'd be
But then the
accessible.
problem is that you're going to need something. So the people that are willing to drive their kids to a different school, and the people that are able to,
But, like,
why shouldn't they be able to? They're
Let's
paying
think
for it.
about though the way that this
But
this
again,
I'm
private
just-
kid
I'm
to
just-
school thing works. There's nobody that goes to La Jolla High that's gonna go drive to Hoover. Like we have to recognize that there are just disparities within the different
Yeah.
schools based on who they service and based on the neighborhoods that they're
and
in.
a lot of
con-
issues
I'm
like
confused.
children are at the fault of the parents as well. Like, what if a parent doesn't care? The kid wants a better education, but the parent's like,
I'm confused.
I don't care.
I'm confused about how whatever I don't even remember what it's called. How whatever it is gonna help solve that problem
School
that she was
choice.
talking about the disparities
School-
between schools. I don't understand
So-
how it's how it
So here, how
works.
about this? So school choice is the idea that every student should be able to choose what school they're going to go to. And it's the idea that everybody is paying for their public school in one way or another. So it's saying, why are you forced to go to one place? So it's saying, well, you're paying $12,000 a year. Your parents are paying, or you're paying, somebody is paying $12,000 a year for you to go to school.
Mhm.
That's a lot of money.
Including
And-
people who aren't going to
And
school.
including
by the way.
people like him who's homeschooled. If he's homeschooled, he's still paying $12,000 to his public school.
And
so-
the person who's retired, who doesn't have any
Any
kids
money,
in
is
schools
still
anymore,
paying.
are still paying into
They're
it.
still paying $12,000. So the idea of
We
school
all pay
choice
for
is
a
saying
lot of things
is
as
that
well.
saying $12,000, you have control over that. What if you had control over those $12,000 of your money that you earn so that you can dedicate it to the education that your child wants? Why is that so bad?
But-
Why is it so bad that if you have your own money, that you can spend your own money in the way that you want to?
Because you just worded it super well, and yes, you open like that's intentional. The way you're wording that and the way he worded it is intentional. Like it opens you up to access whatever school you want, but there are still inherent barriers that aren't being addressed.
Yeah.
Like
that
sure,
we need to address.
but that's where people want to stop. They're like, let's open
Exactly,
the doors.
but that's
there's
not
access.
that's a starting point. That's the middle.
That's
That's
what
the
they're saying.
middle
But
of the
why,
battle.
why
That's
does that
the
have to be the
I don't-
starting point?
Because what else would be the starting point
Yeah.
right now to help promote? So the problem with education is that there's no reason for it to change.
Yeah.
Because, right? I mean, think about it from a systems. Think about it from a
Let them
systems
finish.
level point of view. Okay, there is no reason for education to change. it feeds into itself
Because everyone still
consistently.
has access to a public
Because everybody
education.
still has access to a public
agree with
education,
that.
and there's nothing that's saying a
And
public
it
education
attenuates
should.
inequalities. If you go to a poor school, you're probably not going to get the job that you would have gotten
Exactly.
if you went to a richer school.
Exactly,
But
we're
it
in
doesn't
agreement.
make
no, exactly.
We're
no,
saying
my
the same
question, but my
exact
question
thing.
is
So why
if
wouldn't
you
you
want to
stop-
give everybody however much money to go to this one school, what are you gonna do with the other school, and how are you gonna solve this one school that
The s-
everybody in a community
The
wants to
school,
go
the
to?
school
and
we
you
want
have
to be better. That is encouragement for the school.
where
to
are
be
they
better.
gonna get money to get
that's how-
better?
does
Where
not
are they gonna
have
get money to get better?
resources.
Where are they
It
gonna
has to
gonna
be
come
where-
from?
If
You're
everyone
not
has
gonna
their
come
money
out
to
of
spend,
shoes.
they're going to want to
It's
pay
not
for
all about money. It's about people.
Oh.
No, I'm serious. School education isn't about money. You're getting
Yeah.
$12,000. Do you think it takes $12,000 to educate you
I don't
every year? No, I mean you're all in the education system. Do you think it takes $12,000 a year in raw costs to educate you?
More than that.
Yeah,
More than that.
like
Yeah.
more. Like I would argue that
Because
it
why do you
costs more
spend all
than
that money to go to
$12,000.
college? You know,
Well,
you spend
I
way
mean,
more than
college-
$12,000 to go to
It
college.
doesn't
Yeah,
actually
that's what I was
cost
gonna-
that, but I mean.
Well, yeah,
That-
because
You get
Colleges
your
are-
transportation, your food, your extracurricular activities.
Yeah, it's not just
Just-
your
access.
just-
It's
just-
not just in the
no, just in-
building.
You
just
could
in
just
the
like walk in
classroom.
the classroom,
Just,
books.
Just in the
from
classroom.
8 to 3, does it cost you $12,000 a year to go?
From kindergarten to 12th grade.
Okay, kindergarten to
Well, I
12th.
guess
Okay.
how much
That's
does
what
it
I'm
cost
saying.
your teacher, for your teachers? But then too, also is like in your
But-
more
So-
lower income schools, you don't have your higher quality teachers,
Yeah,
right?
that doesn't make
That's what-
sense to me.
That's what some of
So-
the other
so what-
arguments are,
But it's
of you have
not-
your good teachers and the good.
Have families here, all these want to go here, but just because you're allowing them to go there doesn't mean they have the funds to. Doesn't mean, let's say they work over here now. How are they going to pay for childcare? How are they going to pay for transportation for their child to come
It
back
can
here?
cost more than
It would make more
$12,000.
sense to put forth more aggressive legislation, like instead of just saying it takes time, it's not all about money. Like build some form of freaking accountability
Exactly.
to make this a more efficient school, one that's like the same
Which
level as
is
this
what
one,
I
instead of just
just-
saying, sure,
you just
open
said.
this door.
Well, why does this all have to be? Why does this all have to be
Let's not
government?
yell.
Like,
Let's
No,
not
yeah,
yell.
that's right. No, but it's-
Okay, let's
Right
not
there,
feed into a partisan
literally
fray on this
started
issue
small.
because this is something that has elements of both of it, and I think we're arguing different things on different people on different levels. So what's happening is I agree with you. So that it's unreasonable to expect somebody to go to a school that's not meeting their needs. Is that like a school that does not work for you? Is it reasonable to force you to go there when you can go to a school that does meet your needs?
But like you keep saying the words like you can. Just because the law now allows them to doesn't mean they actually can.
No,
Like-
I'm saying like should the law allow you to though? So
Well,
should
that's what
That's
I
what
say.
the
Should have
question
the
is.
choice of doing it.
Should you
and then-
have the choice to do that? So it's saying you are forced to work in one place your entire life.
But
Is-
the
is
way
that
you're wording
reasonable?
it, like
No,
the way
it's-
you're
it's-
wording
it's
it is
basically
like,
the same
should
thing.
they be able to go to these schools? Like that, it's like
That
there's
is
a
the-
period.
that's the
But they're
after
giving
every
the
time that's
option.
mentioned.
That's the
Exactly.
argument.
There's a period. They have the option now to go to that school. Period.
Yes.
It's not they have the option, but we're also increasing like transportation to make it more affordable. We're also increasing the amount of like the reason why this school is probably better is because they have one-to-one technology where these other schools that are deemed like not as quality as other ones are in these areas that are hubs of people of color that are stuck in poverty.
Where
they don't have
the
one-to-one
hell is all this
technology.
money gonna come from?
The New York, I mean, we're gonna kind of wrap up on that, but that's, I mean,
Yeah.
it's fine.
you might go.
Okay.
You make it.
I wanna make sure that we hear from, his supporters.
Yeah, yeah. There are a couple things that I really liked in his speech. I liked that he brought up how the work unemployment was so low in our country. That is a really great thing that he's done in our country, and I'm really happy that he brought that up. And also, just, I think it was the best thing I liked in it was he talked about income in different families, how the median income, he said the house median income is the highest it's ever been, and more people are joining the workforce when they're that age, and more people are getting off of food stamps and welfare, because if we have everyone depending on food stamps and welfare, there's no one to feed into the economy anymore. So I'm glad that he brought that up.
Tom?
I definitely thought it was like after seeing his other State of the Union addresses, I thought this was more like smooth, concise. and was definitely like a good showing of his opportunities to present different aspects of his agenda, whether it be with trade, foreign policy, space, with drug, space, with drug prices, and I think he did a good job of like limiting like very controversial issues. He did touch on the banning late-term abortion, which I completely support, but I see how that would be a very controversial thing to say. Aside from that, I thought it was I completely enjoyed like when he brought up like Juan Guaido, when he gave the Medal of Honor, and when he brought that soldier home for his family, I thought it was just on and on good things.
Haral, we haven't really heard from you tonight.
Yeah, it's awful to say because I'm currently in it, but it's not one of my highest issues, which sounds so stupid.
No, that's fine.
One thing that really stuck out to me was how he was talking about the 1 trillion trees initiative, and I just find that a little confusing considering a lot of his policies are very anti-eco-friendly, as well as why are you adding carbon sinks when you're not limiting carbon producers? Also, yes, apes. Also,
No, it does make sense. I mean, when I was watching it and I heard about the tree things, I was like, but that's his way of addressing climate for those
Without
that may
actually
be Republican, that, climate is important to him. But for those that are, Haral, like climate change is really important to you, and I know for others as well, of reducing the carbon prints. So what are you gonna do about fracking? What are you gonna do about?
In literally like a span of, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, he said, we are now the #1 producer of oil and natural gas. And then he went, I'm taking on the 100 million trees initiative, or however many trees, to combat climate change. And I'm like, what? And meanwhile, he's rolling back all of these environmental regulations to make it easier for big corporations. And he's like, we're building more factories, but we're planting trees. Where are you going to plant them if you ruin the environment?
It does not make any sense. Also,
It's
no. Hold on. I don't know if that was.
No. Calm down.
But
I just wanna
also,
make sure that we all had an opportunity to talk tonight.
Yeah.
and just one more thing I want to touch on in terms of that one initiative. So much of the U.S. land is allocated and given to the agricultural and infrastructure. So I'm just confused as to where we're going to plant.
Could be global wide.
Okay, is anyone aware?
I don't know what I said it could be. I don't know what this
I'm not
1
gonna doubt
trillion
that
trees
there's
is.
space because there are literally millions of square miles in the United States, and I mean you could plant in probably this acre about 1,000 trees without even questioning it, and it's heavily urbanized. So we can plant 1 million trees, or 100 million, or 1 trillion trees, and it wouldn't exactly be a problem space-wise. The problem would be getting the labor to do it.
The space is
That's a
definitely
lot
not
of
an
tree
issue.
planting.
Exactly. The space isn't an issue. There's plenty of space here.
It might be hard for us to, if you went somewhere in the middle of the nation that's nowhere near the coast, which is where everyone wants to live, then it's very likely that you're going to find land.
A lot of that land is still privately owned though.
Yeah, it's around the world. And,
okay, so globally.
Yeah, it's a global effort, not just in the United States, but it would be primarily focused on like the government protected land, like.
Do you know if China's part of it? I'm just curious.